Hello, and welcome back to the UAS Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Piekarski, and today I am joined by Richard Brasel, Chief Revenue Officer at PteroDynamics. Richard, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me on, Danielle.
Of course. So Richard will be presenting at the 2023 UAS Summit and Expo taking place October 10th and 11th in Grand Forks, North Dakota. His presentation will be held on Tuesday, October 10th at 3:30 p.m. Central and is titled PteroDynamics Inc. Transwing Vertical Takeoff UAS, Solving the Speed and Range Problem. Richard, could you please share more about PteroDynamics and what topics you'll be covering in your presentation?
Thank you for the question. PteroDynamics Incorporated is a small venture cap firm. We are located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and that is where we do all the engineering, design, and flight test of our transwing aircraft. Our primary product is the transwing design, which is a dihedrally folded unmanned aircraft designed to take off vertically and fly as a fixed-wing aircraft. We're a fairly new company. The design was invented by Dr. Val Petrov, who's currently our chairman of the board. In 2017, he invented the transwing design, built the prototype and flew it, and then soon thereafter founded the company. And then we have been working on several designs, building the designs and getting them larger and larger as we build the prototypes. So we consider ourselves a pioneer in VTOL, autonomous VTOL fixed-wing airplanes. We also have a very strong patent portfolio globally. So transwing design is our primary product, and we are rapidly building out different sized aircraft to meet different products, both in the government and the commercial side.
Very cool. So can you explain the challenges faced by VTOL aircrafts in terms of range and speed, and why these challenges have been sort of difficult to overcome in the past?
Yes, VTOL aircraft, most people know them as helicopters. And helicopters do one thing very, very well. They take off and land vertically. Virtually everything else is a compromise. And there's physics involved with advancing blade problems and retreating blade problems and lots of drag on helicopters. So they can't go very far and they can't go very fast. So in recent years, the industry has started to develop VTOL fixed-wing airplanes. A fixed wing giving you the range and speed you need to go do a lot of the missions. But there's a lot of drawbacks to that in that you need a VTOL power system and props to get you up and then props to drive you forward. And that all ends up being very inefficient, a lot of drag and a lot of extra weight carried on there. You've seen the VTOL, like the V-22, that has been very successful, but it's very expensive. There's lots of complexities with it and gearboxes and, rotating the nacelles. We believe our aircraft has the design that fixes a lot of those problems. The wings fold dihedrally parallel with the fuselage with the nacelles pointing up, and then it takes off, and then the transition happens and it starts flying as a fixed wing. And if you see the aircraft airborne, you'd never know that it was actually a VTOL. But when the wings start to transition, the aircraft will slow down, and then it's a nice, tight, compact package that you can land virtually anywhere. So we've solved the problem of the VTOL fixed wing with this transwing design.
Sounds like a really neat technology. So you mentioned earlier that both commercial and government contracts are supporting the further development of the transwing. Can you elaborate on the significance of government interest in this technology and how it might impact the future?
Yes, I'd be delighted to. We built several prototypes to get the technology up, and we're currently flying the XP4, and we developed that aircraft on private funding. The XP4 is about 84 pounds. It has 4 nacelles and flies at 80 to 100 knots, and it's an all-electric air vehicle. Has a 1-hour endurance. That aircraft was built as a prototype to continue developing the flight software and the capabilities of the aircraft. The government got involved, and they are very interested in the capabilities as it relates to shipboard operations. Up to now, when you want to fly an unmanned aircraft off a ship, you'll either have quadcopter or something to that effect that has very short range and very limited carrying capacity. Or if you do a fixed wing, then you have to have a launcher and recovery mechanism, and they take a lot of weight and a lot of space on a ship. The transwing design solves those problems. We don't need any launch equipment. We don't need a runway. It's a very tight, compact design. The wings folded, that's how we transport it, that's how we store it, that's how it takes off and lands. So it gives it some advantages also with ship motion and wind gusts and that sort of stuff. It's very effective in that environment. So the government was very interested in that, and the government is helping us continue to develop the technology and giving us opportunities to prove out the technology and use some of the resources from the government. So that's been very helpful.
So how do you envision that the transwing will transform the VTOL space, and what broader implications might it have for the aeronautical industry as a whole?
And I think would have much larger airplanes, which would have much more mission usefulness. And I think that's going to be a big transformation in both shipboard operations and in commercial operations for survey and oil and gas, logistics, offshore wind farms, all that. So the larger aircraft, and we were developing those we are on a DARPA ancillary program to develop a long-range, medium-sized unmanned aircraft system. We're teamed with Leidos on that, so that's a very exciting program for us, and that is ongoing right now. So that is helping us continue to develop the larger airplanes and a more capable aircraft. And as these aircraft get larger, they become much more capable in terms of carrying either logistics loads or mission equipment to do other missions, both commercially and in defense purposes as well. So as we continue to develop this stuff and people are starting to see the real capacity of a transwing, there's become a lot of interest, both in the United States, commercially and government, civil, as well as internationally. And we field many calls every week on international and commercial opportunities for the aircraft. So I think this will transform the space and provide a lot more capability without being tied to an airport or a lot of launch and recovery equipment.
Thanks, Rich. Well, I really appreciate your answers. It's been really interesting to talk with you today. And I have just one last question for you, and that is, what are some of the topics that you're looking forward to hearing about at this year's UAS Summit and Expo?
Well, I like to track just about everything that goes on. So it's always interesting to hear see a lot of the presentations and visit a lot of the booths. There's always something new and something you never thought of that somebody came up with. That's always exciting. So particularly interested in the electric vehicle market and where everyone is going with flying in the national airspace. So looking forward to excited about attending the conference.
Yes, and we are excited to have you there. Again, today we are joined by Richard Brasel, Chief Revenue Officer at PteroDynamics. Rich, thank you again for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Danielle. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the conference.
Yes, for sure. And to our listeners, if you would like to hear more from Richard, please tune into his presentation at 3:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 10th at the UAS Summit and Expo in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Thank you for listening. Until next time.